Welcome to In the Arena. I'm your host, Representative Mindy McAlindon. Today in the Arena, we're going to be talking about a trip to Israel. I recently led a coalition of legislators and influencers over to Israel. We did that for three purposes. One was to really look at the historical and biblical cultural sites, to explore where the Old Testament takes place and where Jesus walked, lived, and died. And then also to look at the political and the strategic engagements that are going on currently in Israel that we hear about so much in the news. And then finally to talk about security and what that means post-October 7th. So let's jump in. First, let's talk about the historical and biblical sites. There's so much to see. And I ran a bill recently in the Arkansas Legislator with Senator Jim Dotson, which has been signed into law by our governor, Sarah Sanders. And it states that in Arkansas, in state government, the area that we call the West Bank can no longer be called the West Bank. It needs to be called by its biblical and historical name, which is Judea and Samaria. And a lot of people don't even know what the West Bank is. So let's start there. When Israel became a country in 1948, all of its enemies came and attacked it. And Jordan was one of the countries that kind of took over that area that was on the other side of the Jordan River. The people in that area started referring to that area on the other side of the Jordan River as the West Bank. And it really means the West Bank of the Jordan, not to be confused with the other side that is Jordan. And so people started calling it the West Bank. But it really was originally part of what was the country of Israel. And over time, through the 67 war, Israel fought back, and they took back the area of Judea and Samaria, which was given to them throughout history, through the Bible, through God. And then through some Oslo Accords, through some peace accords, over time, much of this area was seceded. So if you look at this map, you can see over time that this area of Judea and Samaria was given back to Palestinian control. And it almost looks like a cancer. If you will look at it, if you think of Jerusalem as being the heart of Israel, Judea and Samaria are kind of the lungs, and you can see that these darker circles, the beiges and yellow circles, are the areas of Palestinian control. And imagine your small town and having areas of people who want to harm you or would like to see you off the face of the earth, taking over these segments of your town. And these areas are literally places, but they have giant signs that say, if you are Jewish, you cannot enter this area. And those areas include things like Hebron. Hebron is where all the patriarchs are buried. Abraham and his wife, Jacob, they're buried there. They have the area where David first began his first 7 years of rule over Israel. We have Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, and where John the Baptist began his ministry in the wilderness. There in Bethlehem, all of that is in Judea. And then up in Samaria, we have areas such as where Jesus met the woman at the well, or the area where God said, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. Those areas are not accessible to Christians and Jews because they are under Palestinian control. And so places that are really important to the Christian faith and to the Jewish faith are not accessible. And this is where Judea and Samaria sit. So when people talk about the West Bank, it really truly is where 80 to 90% of the Bible occurred. It's the area where Jesus walked, where Moses walked, where Abraham walked. These are the areas that are being disputed. So I want to be sure that I kind of clear that up, because it's important to understand the history and the significance of these landmarks of places that Jews and Christians aren't allowed to go. Then we kind of jumped into the political and strategic engagements and what this looked like. And so we met with regional leaders. We met with the governors of Samaria, of Jordan. We met with the Hebrew Council. We met with people from the Knesset. We met with the chair of the Knesset to hear from him what he is seeing, the concerns and the security and just the governance of these areas. And we stood on the balcony in Samaria, and it's up on a hill, and you look over this hill and you can see Tel Aviv and you can see Ben Gurion Airport. And from a strategic standpoint or from a security standpoint, standing there looking down onto Tel Aviv, it's only about 11 or 12 miles to Tel Aviv and about 11 or 12 miles to the airport. Easy to hit with a shoulder-held rocket launcher, you could bring down an airplane. You could shut down a city. And so not just is it important because it is the biblical and historical area, but it's also important because it's a strategic area. It's important that if you have your enemy sitting up on a hillside and can shut you down at any point in time, it's a very dangerous place to be. So it's important that these areas are protected as well and part of Israel for Israel's survival as a country. And then the last thing that we did that was so fascinating was we went and we were able to explore the areas that were attacked on October 7th. It was a very difficult day to go in, but we got to hear from people who were there, people who lost loved ones, people who survived the attacks. We got to see the kibbutz and to see the bullet holes. And, this happened. I know there are people who are always saying, the Holocaust didn't occur or this didn't occur. These things happened, and it's so important to document it and to be sure that we have witnesses there. But these places were they were just sitting there, minding their own business, very much of a commune of people who wanted to live together, work together, raise food together, and really remove themselves from other parts of society. Very, very happy. And many of the people who came and attacked that day were betrayed by people who lived there with them. They were Palestinians who worked with them, who cared for their kids. Some of them picked up kids from school, worked with them on a daily basis, and all the while gathering information to take back to Hamas in order to plan for this day. As a matter of fact, someone told a story that there was a couple who had made plans to celebrate Shabbat out of the commune, out of the kibbutz. And maybe a day or two beforehand, they said, you know what, we want to go ahead and celebrate it here and share it with our community. When the attack happened, and that would be on a Friday, of course, when the attack happened on Saturday morning, and they were hiding in their bunker, they heard Hamas members speaking outside of their home, and they heard them talking about the homes to go to. And someone mentioned their home. And the guy responded, no, they're out celebrating Shabbat someplace else. Don't go there. And so this couple survived because the information given to them was not as recent. It was only a couple of days, but only able to survive the betrayal of people who knew what they were doing and shared that information. So it was amazing to hear these stories and to see the unbelievable amount of destruction that happened. We also went to the Nova Festival, which of course was a site where they were having a big festival, kind of a pop-up festival, like a Burning Man kind of thing. Thousands of young people came to celebrate and to listen to music and just have a great time during this holiday for them. And we heard a survivor talk about the 6 or 7 hours that she didn't know if she would live, that her 2 people that she was trying to hide with were actually killed, how she had to play dead for a long period of time, and just what she went through to try and just survive the day because she had a small child at home she wanted to get back to. And so, I think it's important that those stories get told. I think it's important that we continue to share that information so that people know what happened, that people don't forget what happened, and we recall the reason that people were attacked, that these kibbutz and the festival, that all these areas were attacked was because Hamas does not want to live in peace with the Jews. And it is no more complicated than that. There's a lot of complications around the issues of the Middle East, but when we boil it all down, the truth is Hamas attacked the Jews because they're Jews. And they chant, as we have heard on campuses in our own country, from the river to the sea. And that is literally from the Jordan River, which runs along what we've called in the past the West Bank, to the sea. That whole area in between, as you can see on the map, is Israel. And that's what Hamas in the Middle East want to get rid of. And it truly is just an anti-Jewish message. So I wanted to share that with you. It was an amazing time. Again, we had a great coalition of people from across the country, different walks of life, who were able to come and experience this with us. And if you have not been, I encourage you to go and to see the sites. And with that, I will look forward to seeing you next week in the arena.